Hello Facebook, hello YouTube. How are you doing today? So I got a really great question for you to ask yourself right now, and it's something actually kind of came up in my coded clearing program on Monday, and it's something that comes up a lot when I work with someone. So if you're ever working on yourself, could be your life, could be your business, and you find yourself with all good intention in the world not doing the thing that you said you're going to do or that you promised yourself, and often we get into this kind of feeling stuck, can't move forwards, can't shift or change in some way, and it can be really frustrating, especially when mentally we want to do it, right? We actually want to make the change we say we're going to make, but somehow life doesn't feel like it's moving forward. So what a lot of people do is criticize themselves and just feel really shit about themselves, as if there's something wrong. So I want to share with you a question that is really, really useful to start digging a little bit deeper into why this might be. And it's definitely one that I've used myself, and I still come back to this question when I don't shift something. So I'll share kind of one of my examples, but here's the question, and it's this, and it's kind of digging into why might you not move forwards, and how might you benefit from just staying where you are. So what we're really doing is looking at the secondary gains. The secondary gain is really something that we're benefiting in a certain way by staying the same. So even though consciously we don't want to be stuck in this place, but there's something we're getting out of the behavior that we're doing or not doing that we are actually benefiting from. So I'll give you an example personally, and also something that came up in kind of my line of work over the years. So I remember working with somebody quite a few years ago, and he was working on, hey Darren, he was working on like stuff in his body, like physical symptoms, pain, and just various like emotional things. And there was a real shift, but then we kind of got to a sticking point where it's like, something was stuck, and he wasn't moving any further with his progress, and it was really interesting. And I'm intrigued when that happens, because there's always a reason. So when we kind of dove into it and looked at, well, what could be the potential benefit of not releasing this pain, of not shifting forwards, it actually came to light, totally logical reason, that he had an ongoing claim, and he had like an accident of some kind, and it was a long kind of proceedings with police and medical professionals and all of this. It was really, really stressful. But imagine if he got rid of his pain in that moment, it would have really impacted his court case, his claim, his ability to receive compensation because of the injuries. So there was a benefit from him keeping hold of those symptoms. Mentally, of course, he was saying, I want to get rid of it, I want to release it. So there was a secondary gain. So it's not that it's right or wrong, it's just understanding that when we're stuck, there's always a reason why we're not doing the thing that we said we're going to do. This comes up in like diets, health, relationships, we're going to bring in a new routine or something. So for me, if you followed me from before, and you'll know that I talked about visibility a lot. So there was a time when, this might have been maybe 2 years ago, I'd say, and I was trying to say to myself, do live streams, show up more consistently, do it, because I knew it was important for the work that I'm doing. So I made a goal and I wrote it down and all of this stuff, and I kept finding myself stuck and not changing my behavior, doing the same thing, like trying to make excuses. So when I sat down and I asked this question, I was like, how might I benefit from just staying the same, right? Just staying where I am. And then really is effective when you write it out, because when you write it out, you bypass your conscious mind, and then amazing wisdom comes out. So I was writing out, and it was like, well, you're benefiting from staying the same because you can stay comfortable. You don't have to worry about anybody misunderstanding you. You don't need to have to worry about people judging you. And then I dug a little bit deeper, and then it was, well, you gain from it so that you don't upset or offend friends or family. People won't think different of you, etc., etc. So it was like, that's the benefit. The next question then to ask yourself is, okay, is that worth it? Is it valuable enough to get in the way of the thing that you say you want to do? Sometimes the answer is yes, and we want to just hold on to it because we're not ready to move on. Other times it's, no, I'm going to do it anyway. So check out if you're stuck, if there'll be a secondary gain. There's always some kind of gain that we feel that it is. It's not necessarily true, but it's something that we get from it. Usually it's some level of staying the same, staying safe. We're not ready to move. We're not ready. Another one is, we talk a lot about success of fear of failure, right? We don't try things because we're scared to fail. A lot of what comes up for people is actually fear of success. What if you do the thing? Yeah, sure, if you fail, right? And we're all aware of that feeling, but what if you do the thing and you're successful? What will that change in your life? So again, it might be somebody might feel differently about you. You might lose your circle that you're connected to. You might, something's going to change for you. It's really fascinating when you start digging deep, and then you don't have to criticize yourself, right? So Darren, I'm in limbo, undecided what to do next, still awaiting a direction. Yeah, that can be, sometimes that's just a sit and wait. Sometimes that is, sometimes there is an element that you've got to just let it come to you. Sometimes, so just check this out when you reflect. Sometimes though, it can, I'm not saying it is for you, but it can be a really clever, sneaky way that we sort of get ourselves to kind of stay still by saying, well, we don't have clarity, right? So we don't have clarity, so we can't really change anything or make a move. So sometimes what that can be helpful is just to start moving in towards a direction with a very small step. Obviously it depends on the area, but it's an interesting one. But like I said, it might be for you that you genuinely are just being in that space and waiting, right? Just waiting. But for a lot of people though, there's a lot of fear involved in change, and I know this because it's what I do. It's what I do with people. I do it with myself all the time. I'm always changing, shifting, growing. But when I work with people, there's usually, it's a fear of some kind. Otherwise we'd just do it, right? We'd start the business, we'd start dating again, we'd do the health and exercises, we'd change our diet, we'd get up earlier, we'd go to bed earlier, whatever our thing is. When we don't do it, and people call it self-sabotage. I don't even like that phrase really, because it's sort of, self-sabotage sounds very harsh, feels very harsh, but often it's not. See it as a protective measure. It's a protective measure, and sometimes what it is, we need to create a bit more safety in an area. That's what I do with people often when they come and they say, I'm doing this big thing and I've done this amount, but I'm stuck here and I can't do it. Usually it's a calming of the nervous system. It's creating safety. It's starting to become more familiar with this new thing. Some of this takes time, and some of it can be done like that. Some of it takes time. I have many options for me and can't decide what direction to go. Happy in limbo though. Yeah, so maybe you're just happy, enjoying it. On that one, I often get the guidance from my team, and they always say, when I get this, I don't know which way, and they say there is no one way to do it. So see yourself as you're in the middle. You've got these multiple tracks in front of you. All of them have higher timelines, amazing things ahead of them. When we get into, we've got to pick the correct one, we turn it into right or wrong. If we understand actually it's not how it works, all we ever have to do is choose, just initially, choose a direction, see what it feels like. You can shift and change when you need to. I know that doesn't make sense logically, because logically we say, well, we can't just do that, but actually just take little baby steps. But the point is that they always share, you can't get it wrong. And it's not about picking the correct decision, because there is no correct decision. It's really just how you feel about it. The most important thing is backing it with your own energy, right? So if you're choosing a kind of path, how I do it is I don't know, I could have chosen one of 5 here. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to stand by it. I'm going to back it wholeheartedly. And if I find as I'm moving down this path, it's starting to feel like, not as good as I thought it would be, or not the way I want it to be, I can shift. But the most important thing is, when you do anything, is to back it wholeheartedly. Really back yourself, which sometimes that's easy. Sometimes that feels challenging, right? So many yellow brick roads, they look the same, just awaiting guidance as to the right one. No rush. Yeah. Another thing you can do is ask yourself, ask your higher self, the higher self version of you. He's already done that. He's already created the success, the thing, whatever it is that you're wanting, because you already know. This is the thing. This can be quite challenging, but We already know, we always know deep down what we actually want. What we do is we make it into right or wrong, or we try and figure out the easiest way, the possible way, the viable option, right? But that aside, that's figuring out the how, and we don't even have to figure that all out. The main thing energetically is deciding what it is that we want. When we want something, all of our energy aligns, and we put this tremendous amount of energy behind it. So we always know. So awaiting guidance is good, but don't wait. Yeah, you do know exactly. Stop it. Yeah. You already know. So if you already know, what would that be? You can feel that out for yourself, and then notice, okay, well, what does that bring up? Holy shit, how am I going to do it? Can I do it? Just allow yourself the process, because you always know. So anyone that comes to me with a lack of clarity, we'll just get them tapped into what they already know, and then the person's like, I knew that. So when I have my download, sometimes I'm like, okay, I know this is what I know, and it's like, oh shit, I can't really avoid it now. Because it takes courage. It takes courage to actually act on what we really know deep down, and often the deep down knowing of what we're really wanting to change, shift, move, create scares us. Sometimes, often, most of the time. Most of the time it scares me, because it's quite big and expansive, and I get excited, and I'm like, oh my God, can I? So you already know, you do know. I love that you know that you know. That's the most important thing. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share. So ask yourself that question. It's just so hard to do what I really want. That is a whole other conversation. So first step is understand you do know what you want. Sit with that for a little while. The way that we work with myself and anyone that works with me is to not, now logically, your logical mind, if you're creating in older energies, right, is going to tell you that, oh, hey, Jem, so true, yes. Your logical mind is going to say, I need to know the plan. I need to know the 10 steps of exactly how I'm going to go and do that. That you can do it that way, but that's a very harder, lower vibrational, heavier frequency way to do it. The other higher way to do it is to start trusting. And this is what we're not taught. We're never taught this at school, in society, but this is the most powerful way of living and being and creating, is to start tapping into what you really want, starting to get into the belief around it. The belief around it is like 80% of what we do. It's such a huge part. The actual action steps is a very small part. It's the belief, it's the energy. Of course, we need to take action as well, but that action, it comes off the back of our energy, and we are so powerful. So we've got to start shifting how we look at this. So just a little guidance for you, not even trying to figure out the how. Before you even get into that, there is time for that. But first of all, can you back it with your energy? Like The Secret, yeah. I mean, The Secret, I like it and I don't like it, because it misses out a huge part as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, so The Secret is, you imagine it, you visualize, you focus, and you really back your energy. That is a huge part of it, but it doesn't speak to the bits that may get in the way of that. It doesn't speak to the actual action that we've got to take in the world, because of course we have to do something. We're in a physical world. So if I was visualizing my book, I'm going to be an author, and I never sat down and wrote it. We haven't created a society yet that I can just stream the words down and they appear in a book, right? So I had to take action. So we always have to take action, which The Secret doesn't really do it. Many barriers to it. Yeah, well, the barriers are, they're not so much barriers, they're just, what do we call them? Areas in need of alignment, areas in need of, often it's healing. That's why getting into the manifestation and creation is so powerful, because it brings up the stuff that gets in the way, and then we get to heal it. Usually it's beliefs about ourselves. It's beliefs about ourselves, right? So you've got one, it's so hard to do what I really want. That's a belief. It feels true to your mind, but yeah, glitches in the matrix, absolutely. It feels true to your mind, but that's you operating in a different frequency, like inside the matrix, right? Where you're told that you have to be logical about things, you have to work really hard for things, you have to do it in an ABC way, 1, 2, 3, and that is one way, but there's a whole world over here of energetics, which we get to tap into, and then everything starts to create differently. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ever recovered from my illness if I was doing 1, 2, 3 ABC. Wouldn't have happened. It was what I did, but it was the energetics behind it. The doctors just said, take antidepressants, have a bit of counselling if it gets too bad, and live with it. That was just strategy, right? Yeah, so I'm too logical. That's part of my problem, I think. Yeah, and it's not that it's a problem, it's a conditioning. So this is what we're doing. We're coming out now of, more and more people we're coming out of logic, and we're starting to go into our true energy. Now, there's a reason we weren't taught this at school, because the system that we're in wants to keep us enslaved. But what's happening now is people are starting to wake up to their true powers. And this is not just like internet quotes. This is true power, energetics, universal laws that we live in, whether we are believing of them or not. They exist and they operate everywhere. So thank you, Darren. Yes, I did some amazing things with my recovery and all of that, but it's all energetics. And once you understand it, you can literally create in a very different frequency. So there's more to say. I'll probably come back and maybe expand this section, but check out those questions. You can get yourself into a level of awareness, but just know if you're stuck, you're not moving, you're not shifting, there's a reason. So just bring in some compassion, be really patient with yourself, but it's helpful. It's helpful to understand why we're not maybe moving, allowing ourselves to move forward. It's not because we're stuck, it's not because we're stupid, it's not because we don't know, it's just there's a protective thing often. And I've done it a lot, but the difference is that I'm conscious now, and then once I start to unpick it, I can start to move through it, heal any bits, shift any bits that need updating, and then expand and move forwards. And if we continuously do that, there are no limits. There are no limits. I'm just beginning with all the things I'm doing. I know there are no limits for you watching this. So yeah, so much to look forward to. Oh, thank you, Gems. I sat here questioning. Yeah, but you're right. I do know. You know as well. See, I need to act. Okay. Trust what you know. Trust what comes to you, and start to practice listening to that, because the mind is just the mind. The mind half the time is bullshit. It's very powerful when it's trained. When it's untrained, it feeds us a lot of nonsense. So you always know, trust that you absolutely know what you're here for, what you're needing, your next steps. We know everything inside of us. It's just we have to ask and listen. Okay, so yes, and you've always gone against the powers and the rules. So that's half the battle. You're going to find this a lot easier, coming out of logic and starting to trust, because they don't want us to. There are powers on this, entities, energies on this planet who do not want us to trust our own sovereignty, right? It's in their interests, but guess what? This is what we came to do. So that's my message. I send you lots of love. Mwah. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for watching the replay. Let me know if you try this question and anything that comes up, or if it works or it helps shift you in any way. I'd love to hear. And yes, I will be back tomorrow. So have a lovely evening, and yeah, we'll talk soon. All right, bye for now.